Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak-to-Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
I come from a real small town.
Hello, my name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to this week's episode of the Mountaineer Podcast, Music of the Mountains, where to be and what to see. Our musical guest this week. Do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
I am Brad Fitch. I am a singer-songwriter, musician, and entertainer from Estes Park, Colorado.
And I hear you'll be performing at the Old Gallery in Allens Park very soon.
That's right. I'll be at the Old Gallery on the evening of Friday, the 24th of May, and I'm looking forward to it. I've played there many times over the years, and I absolutely love the Old Gallery and the folks who come to hear me there.
So how did your musical journey begin? How did you start out in music in the first place? Take us through your life in music.
Okay, well, my life in music began very early on. As a little kid, both my parents were very musical, both musicians, and I remember my mom, when I was real little, sitting me down on the living room floor and putting on records for me to listen to, little kid songs, but I loved them, and I used to imagine what different instruments might be making those sounds. And I also realized that I had a knack for memorizing words real early on. When I was 6 years old, my folks put me in piano lessons. And that was really too young, in my opinion, but I did get introduced to the treble and bass clefs and the concept of scales and things. Then, when I was in the 5th grade, I was eligible to begin in the school band, and I chose the trombone to play because I had seen an old rerun of the TV musical version of The Music Man, and there was a song in there called 76 Trombones. I thought, I want to play the trombone. And what was interesting was that trombone case was as tall as I was, and I'd have to carry that thing out to the school bus, and so that was fun. Well, meanwhile, always loving music, also when I was a little kid, for a gift for a birthday, I think my folks gave me a little tiny radio, and I would listen to that radio when I was going to sleep at night, and there was a radio station, one of the college stations that I pull in, that on the weekends played a program called Music America, and they played bluegrass, singer-songwriter stuff, mostly acoustic kind of things, and that really called to me. This was the first time I heard John Prine, John Denver, Gordon Lightfoot, James Taylor, and even early Jimmy Buffett, and I thought, that's what I want to do, guitar-based music. And so, when I turned 13, my folks let me take guitar lessons, but they said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to really learn how to play. So they bought me a classical guitar, nylon string, and I took classical guitar lessons for a year. And I hated it at the time. I didn't want to play that music, but it certainly taught me how to play the guitar. And looking back, I'm really grateful that I learned that. It taught me how to negotiate the keyboard, the fingerboard with my left hand, and how to use my fingers for fingerstyle, picking out melodies with my right hand. Well, shortly after a year of guitar lessons, I was allowed to stop, and then I could, buy sheet music or chord charts and things like that and start learning the songs I really wanted to play. That led to me teaching myself several other stringed instruments, string-based guitar type, ukulele, mandolin, banjo. We had a mountain dulcimer in the house, so I used to have fun playing with that. I also picked up a harmonica, and I got into hand drums, things like that. But mostly guitar has been my instrument of choice because it has such a great range of various octaves. It's great for accompanying singing, and it's portable, unlike a piano.
So I assume that artists like John Prine, James Taylor, Gordon Lightfoot, these inspirations you took along with you throughout your musical career.
That is right. Those guys were my influence. And as soon as I really started playing guitar, I started writing songs. And that's something that I've enjoyed a lot. To date, I have written and published just short of 300 songs, and I really like doing that. And for a performer such as I am, while I love playing cover music, I have done cover concerts, I've been in numerous bands, but there's nothing like playing my own songs, my own creations for people. That, to me, as a songwriter, is the ultimate experience.
How long have you been writing songs? Is there something about the writing process of songs that really sticks out to you as a whole?
Well, I started writing songs really when I first started playing guitar. So since I was about 13 years old, that's when I wrote my first song. And interestingly, I recorded that song as the first track on my first solo album 24 years ago. But I love songwriting. I have found that it's hard to write on demand. For example, if I think I need to write some music and sit down and do it, it sounds as forced as it is. What works best for me in the writing process is to wait for the inspiration. And when I usually get the inspiration is when I'm out hiking, out walking. I live in Estes Park on the edge of Rocky Mountain National Park. So I do a lot of hiking, and I'll find that inspiration comes then. And interestingly, I'll have my feet walking along with the rhythm, and generally the melody and the words come simultaneously. Now, I used to pre-cell phones. I used to have a little notepad and pen that I'd write stuff down on. Now I can just sing it into my phone and have an instant recording, which is very nice. In the past, I've had the honor of having been commissioned to write songs particular for certain events. For example, Rocky Mountain National Park commissioned me to write the theme song for the park's centennial in 2015. And I did that, but it was a process. It was a process. In fact, the first one I came up with, I ran by them and they really didn't like it. I did and went on to record it later on. But I talked with them and what were they looking for more specifically, and I got that from them and then spent some time on it and was able to write a song that was more what they were looking for. But writing is something that I really enjoy. And again, I have written way more songs than I've recorded. And to date, I've recorded 27 albums. Now, most of them are my originals, but I have done some albums with various bands I've been with. I've done 3 albums as a duo with a good friend of mine who's also a singer-songwriter. And I've done some live albums and tribute albums. For example, I did an album of all John Denver songs that was recorded live. And the challenge for me there is financial because, as I'm sure you're aware, when you record somebody else's song, you must pay the royalty for that. And I'm absolutely fine with that. Being a songwriter myself, if someone records my song, I should get paid for it. So the way around that is when I've done those projects, they have been recorded live at a concert. And the reason is that way I'm not spending even more money on a recording studio. So there's a nice long answer to my songwriting.
For those who are curious, according to his website, which will be brought up later, the first album that Brad was involved in was Black Canyon Express's self-titled album in 1982. He was then involved with the Elktones with their 1997 release Just Like the Tape. But his first solo release as Brad Fitch was Take Me Away. And that debut song, that opening song on the album, the song that he wrote when he was 13 years old, is fittingly enough titled Writing a Song. What have been some of your favorite parts about being able to perform live and share this incredible amount of music with an audience?
Well, it's interesting. As I said, I'm from a family of musicians. My brother, who lives in Hawaii, is also a songwriter. And the reason I bring that up is his favorite part of being a musician is actually writing the music. He loves to write, and he spends lots of time. He'll take months to write a song, but they come out really, really good. Other people I know who are musicians who are also songwriters and performers happen to love the process of recording. They love going into the recording studio and creating different sounds in the recording studio. Now, both of those aspects are okay for me, but they're merely a means to an end for me personally. For me, what really excites me about being a musician is the act of performing for people. I like connecting with people. And for example, when people come to my shows, whenever it's possible, I want to greet them at the door when they come in. And the reason is I want to look them in the eye and I want to establish an immediate relationship. Shake their hand. Now, other musicians I've played with are completely freaked out by that idea. In fact, I played with a group years ago and I started to do that. Said, "What are you doing?" No one should see you until the curtain is raised and there you are on the stage. That's part of the show. Well, of course I complied with them because I was outvoted, but I don't believe that at all. I believe it should be a personal experience. And I like my performances to be very conversational. I like to tell people about the songs, whether I wrote them or not. I'll tell them, for example, with covers, what I have learned about the songwriter who wrote it and how he or she wrote it. And with my own songs, I want to give them a little story. Now, there's a fine line. I do know a couple of singer-songwriters who, unfortunately, in my opinion, spend more time between songs talking about them than actually playing the songs. I don't ever want to do that. But I will give a few details, but I know when people come to hear me, they don't want to hear me talk. They want to hear the music. So I make sure it is much more music than introducing songs. But again, for me, it's the act of performing for people live that really gives me the biggest thrill.
Out of curiosity, how many bands have you been involved with over the years?
Oh my goodness, let's see. Well, when I was in high school, I got into my first working band, and the band was called Fitch and Chips. I know it sounds like a joke, but that was our name. We were a country dance band. So let's see. After Fitch and Chips, I have performed with my sister and brother, and we go by the name Sibling Rivalry. Now, we don't play much together at all anymore because, as I said, my brother lives in Hawaii, so we don't get together so much anymore. I played with the Arizona Opry Band for 4 years, and that was a show band. I did more than 700 shows with them over the course of 4 winters down there. That was real slick. That taught me a lot about really the showbiz aspect of what I do. I played with a band in Estes Park called the Elk Tones. It was 3 friends and I, and we were all singers and all guitarists, so it was real interesting. But we worked in several originals. We were all songwriters. We recorded an album together. Let's see, in 2004, I was invited by an organization in Estes Park to present a John Denver tribute concert as a fundraiser for their organization. This is something I continue to this day. And so for that, I put together a John Denver cover band. So I guess I'm describing about 6 different bands right there? And I've been in more informal groups that got together a few times. So I'd say all in all, maybe 8.
Do you prefer playing by yourself or playing with a band?
Well, they're very different experiences. The nice thing about playing solo is I don't really have to have a set list pre-planned unless one has been requested by the customers. I can go with the flow. Playing with others, there needs to be a set list, and we need to have played the songs together before to rehearse. But I really enjoy playing with other musicians. It is great fun, and the camaraderie just can't be beat. So I like different aspects of each.
Is there anything that you hope audience members take away from your shows when they come and see you, whether it's with a group or not?
Well, my goal in performing is that say it's an hour, that for that hour, folks can just forget about the cares of daily life and just relax and have fun so that they come away feeling somewhat lighter, put a smile on their face. That's my goal. That's what I hope people get out of my performances, is just to feel better and to relax.
Let me get back to the number of albums you said you released real quick. You said you released 27 albums?
That is correct. 27 albums. If you want to find a listing of them, they're all listed on my website. My website is cowboybrad.com. And if you go to my music page, I think it's the music page, I have a discology at the bottom of that page. It lists all of the albums I've done. The solo albums as well as those I've done with groups. It's a lot of fun. It's really my passion. I love music. Absolutely love it.
That is an absolutely insane number of studio albums. Is there there a favorite part of the recording process that you have?
You know, as I said earlier, recording to me is just a means to an end. I don't really consider myself an artist in the studio. To me, it's to get it recorded, to get a permanent version of it, so that, for one thing, so I have something to sell, and secondly, so people who want to hear the songs can have them close to them. They can purchase the songs, whether it be a physical CD or a download. And I've had the opportunity, obviously, to perform in a lot of different kinds of studios. Everything from garage-type studios, home studios, all the way up to world-class studios. To name a couple, one was the FTM, that Foxtrot Tango Mike FTM studio down in Littleton, a world-class studio. I did a couple albums there. I even, with my first band, in the waning days of the famous Caribou Ranch near Netherlands, did an album at Caribou Ranch. And that was in the 1980s before they shut down their operation. So that's been a pleasure, getting to work with different producers and different engineers and all. But again, it's the act of performing live in front of live people. It's so organic. You don't hide behind anything. It's just me and my instrument and my voice and them. That is what really turns me on.
You know, it's funny that you bring up Caribou Ranch. I've actually been looking for quite a few artists who have recorded at Caribou Ranch, seeing if I can get interviews with them to talk about in the Mountaineer.
Well, I'm one of them.
So tell me, what was your experience recording at Caribou Ranch? What was it like for you?
It was amazing because so many of the great icons recorded at Caribou Ranch, everyone from Elton John to the Beach Boys to Chicago, all of those 1970s, Dan Fogelberg, those guys. So it had the great reputation. Well, what happened with my band was an independent investor heard us and really liked us and said, hey, I want to loan you guys the money to make an album, and here's how much I'll loan you, and you get to pick the recording studio. So of course we picked Caribou Ranch, and we could afford 2 days there, but I was awestruck, and the engineers we worked with were just terrific, real pros. And so in 2 days we made an album, which by most accounts would have just been a demo for most people, but for us it was our album because we had played live together for years. I was very impressed to be singing into the very microphones that they told me people like John Denver and Stevie Wonder and these guys had sung into. It was just quite an experience, and I was quite young then, and so it really made a big impression on me.
And out of curiosity, how did you react when you found out that the studio burned down in a fire in 1985?
When I learned Caribou Ranch recording studio had burned, I was really sad. I was shocked to think that this incredible facility where so many world-class, world-renowned musicians had recorded was suddenly gone. It was shocking and made me very sad. Of course, I hoped they would rebuild and get it going again, and of course that did not happen. But I have some great memories of having been there.
Did you work with anyone special during that time? I'm not necessarily asking if there's anybody famous who came, although if there was, that would be amazing. But in general, was there anybody you really connected with during that time? Anybody who you really looked up to during that time?
You know, I wish I could remember the names of the two engineers. They were staff engineers in the employment of Caribou Ranch Recording Studio. They knew we were a bar band, which we were at that time. And so they were so professional, so warm and friendly. They really guided us through the process. They set everything up for us, and they were just super friendly. And I am really grateful to both of those guys. I wish I could remember their names.
Thankfully, since this interview, we've been able to track down the names of the engineers because they were credited on the back of the original Black Canyon Express album, recorded in March of 1982. So special shout out to Jerry Mahler and Rich Markowitz for working on the album behind the scenes. Also a special shout out to the other band members of Black Canyon Express, Charlie Clark, Jackie Clark, and Dan Downs. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off, Brad?
Oh, okay. Well, as a musician, I've been privileged to have played up to 300 shows a year. I keep my schedule available to the public, and you can find it on my website, cowboybrad.com, on the events page. And if you'll look at that, you will see where I'll be playing. I think it's posted right now into September, I believe. Now, in the wintertime, I mostly play outside of our area, a lot of out-of-state things, lots of private functions. bands around the state and in Denver and some of the ski towns and Western Slope. In the summer, though, being a summer tourism economy, I get to play in Estes Park almost exclusively, which is great. I don't have to leave town. This will be the 28th summer that I have played in downtown Estes Park 3 nights a week in the summer. And that is sponsored by the city of Estes Park along with some of the merchants, some of the shops in town. They contract me to do that. And I read their advertisements. Those are Sunday, Monday, and Tuesdays. I also do a free weekly music program on Wednesdays in the summer at YMCA of the Rockies of Estes Park. And then I have some regular private gigs at some of the lodges in town. But you can find it all on that website.
Thank you so much to Brad for coming on board and joining us for this week's podcast. If you want to see him performing live, be sure to check him out at the Old Gallery at Allens Park, located at 14863 Highway 7 in Allens Park on Friday, May 24th, 2024, starting at 6:30 p.m. Also be sure to head to cowboybrad.com in order to get all of his albums. Unfortunately, at least in regards to Spotify streaming, the only songs of his that are available currently are The Ones and Estes Park Christmas. But he has a whole list of songs. Like he said earlier, he lists that he's been involved with 27 different albums on his website. So please, if you want to support him directly, buy his music directly, go to cowboybrad.com and check out the list of his music.
My values were born. No matter where I go in this great big world, I'm from a real small town. I used to look to where the grass was greener. Let me tell you what I found out. There's so many big cities with too much to see there.
And now, for this week's music mentions. Head to Busey Brews, located at 70 East 1st Street in Netherland on Sunday, May 19th at 2 p.m. to see the Piney Tops Trio performing live. Head to the Canyon Tavern, located at 32138 Highway 72 in Coal Creek Canyon on Saturday, May 18th at 6 p.m. to see Will Whalen performing live. Head to the Diner Bar Ned, located at 121 North Jefferson Street in Netherland on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. for a karaoke night. Head to the Gold Hill Inn, located at 401 Main Street in Gold Hill on Friday, May 17th at 8 p.m. to see the River Arkansas performing live, on Sunday, May 19th at 6 p.m. to see Fly in the Ointment performing live, and on Thursday, May 23rd at 7 p.m. to see Meadow Mountain performing live. Head to the Gold Hill General Store, located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill on Saturday, May 18th at 7 p.m. to see Lauren King performing live. Head to Howlin' Wind Brewing, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville on Saturday, May 18th at 5 p.m. to see Fast Floyd performing live. Head to the Jamestown Mercantile, located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown on Friday, May 17th at 7 p.m. to see the Jeremy Money Band performing live, on Sunday, May 19th at 12:15 p.m. to see John Shepard and the Front Porch Posse performing live, and on Thursday, May 23rd at noon to see the Dead Fish Duo performing live. Head to Knotted Root Brewing, located at 250 North Caribou Street in Netherland on Sundays at 5 p.m. for Jazz Sundays. Head to the Old Gallery at Allens Park, located at 14863 Highway 7 in Allens Park on Friday, May 17th at 6 p.m. for an open mic with Tim Merkel. And finally, head to the Very Nice Brewing Company, located at 20 East Lakeview Drive, number 112 in Netherland on Friday, May 17th at 6 p.m. to see Blue Moose Jazz performing live, on Saturday, May 18th at 5 p.m. to see Windy Pines performing live, and on Thursday, May 23rd at 6 p.m. to see a farewell party with music by The Gale. Did we miss you or your performance? Want to submit your music listing in the Peak to Peak area? Do you have updates to your business or to your performances? Please call 303-810-5409 or email info@themountaineer.com to be included in the next print edition or the next podcast of The Mountain Ear.
Tell me why.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code podcast when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.